We have a special program today for veterans, and the interesting part is you're going to meet Shane Smith very soon, but Shane and I met through an informational interview, and highlighted in my Job One for America's Veterans book is the phrase, quote, from Shane, "Don't let them blow smoke up your ass." And I got permission to say that, but it is so military, and it is so true, especially for anybody that's recently made the transition from the military into the private sector or is getting ready to make that transition. So, Shane, tell us about the phrase and how it came about and why it was so important to you.
Sure, I wish I could claim that I invented it, but it actually is a phrase that we use quite a bit in the military. First of all, let me lead in with the fact that I'm a veteran. I transitioned 3 years ago, so I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. But transition's hard. It's one of the hardest things that somebody who's been part of a high-functioning team is going to really struggle with when they're doing it and going it alone.
And tell us a little bit about your Navy career.
Sure.
So we know
I have a background.
Yeah,
I have a background in Marine Corps administration. I've handled everything from high-level correspondence, awards, performance evaluations, general correspondence, but also led teams in Iraq and Afghanistan, doing the same job, but just doing it in different locations. So I had a career for 20 years and 6 months, and when the time came to transition, I was excited. I felt I had had enough education and experience that businesses would be more than willing, jumping at the chance to talk to me. But the reality is that in order for you to market yourself effectively, you really have to connect. And that's kind of where the military falls short, is connecting in the community in which it exists. So for me, networking was kind of the way to kind of tell your professional story over and over and over again. And you have to have a really high degree of emotional intelligence to be able to understand what you want to do, but also what you don't want to do. And all that comes with kind of actually living and breathing the transition process. So I've been through that. And the whole idea of the blow smoke up your ass, to go back to your original comment, is people in the military have a tendency to paint a rosier picture, meaning when you go to transition, you're going to have great offers, people are going to be clamoring.
Much rosier.
Yeah, because
definition.
you have vast leadership experience. You have led teams large and small. You've been in charge of a large operating budget. Maybe you've flown, high-value aircraft. It's a variety of different experiences, but it all comes down to this element of trust. And the military does a good job of trusting you, giving you a little bit more, leash than they're probably comfortable with sometimes, but that allows people in the military to rise to the occasion. So it was a fun ride, but then I started to transition in 2015. And I knew I wanted to stay in San Diego. I just didn't know exactly maybe what I wanted to do. I graduated from San Marcos with a degree in finance. I had recently got my MBA because I thought that's going to help make me more marketable. It's going to help me to present myself and cast myself in the best possible light to the businesses that I wanted to be involved with.
And what would you recommend to somebody that's in the military right now, that it's 12 months from discharge, and they've decided they want to stay in San Diego? Now, some of the skills relate to San Diego, but
sure.
What do you wish you knew 12 months before you got out that you would want to tell viewers to be sure to start doing?
I think the most important thing is to start your transition early. The earlier, the better. Most people understand that they're going to transition, whether they do 4 years or 40 years, they understand at least 12 to 18 months out that they're going to start to migrate away from military service, and they're going to look to pivot into into some new experiences. So that really is kind of the sweet spot to start building your brand and building your network, and get yourself out to SDMAC, which is the San Diego Military Advisory Council. Get your name out at
Go to those breakfast meetings, go to their events, go to their job fairs.
Great ways to practice. Tell me a little bit about yourself. What can I do to help? And you really want to start taking what I call 10% time. So Google calls it 20% time. It's where they allow people who work at Google to work on whatever they want to for 20% of their work week. Now, as it relates to transition, I call it 10% time. So if you work, let's say, a typical 40-hour work week, you want to take about 4 hours and then use that, dedicate it towards transition, meaning I'm either going to meet with somebody, I'm going to have lunch, I'll have coffee, I'm going to somehow, some way begin to start to create some professional distance from my old career in the military and get some momentum towards my new career, my next career. So the 10% time is something that I think is kind of important.
Does the military approve that, or you sort of need to sneak it in on lunches and
I think
going to association meetings?
It requires a little bit of creativity, but it's not something that's too difficult to do. You can fit it in during lunch, and it may be career exploration, looking into different industries. If you want a career in sustainability, maybe looking into that. If you want a career in finance, looking into that. Connecting with people in the community who do those, who work within those industries, so that you can start to explore, hey, is this something that I want to do, or is this something that maybe I want to pivot away from?
Because I've talked to high-level people in the military, and they say when people are transitioning out, we get it. They start to wind down,
Sure.
right? And their responsibilities become a little less and a little less, and they're not sent on foreign assignments. And so
Yes.
we expect them, because they want them to have a smooth landing
Yes.
into the private sector. So, I mean, it's good that the military supports that.
Yeah, and they are very, very supportive in terms of understanding that once you start to transition, you're going to need to do less and less, depending on mission requirements. But you're going to need to begin to start to take care of yourself, and they do want you to be successful. I mean, they do a great job. The transition seminars do a great job with how to build your LinkedIn profile, how to write a really good resume. They go over the STAR method and come up with specific examples, because everybody's service is slightly different, and they're in a variety of different skill sets and job requirements. So the transition folks do a really good job of setting the foundation, but then it becomes on you, incumbent on you, to make sure that you make the leap from transition once you go out the gate for the last time, that you're armed and, I hate to use the term armed and ready, but just ready for the
This
next
veteran
chapter.
stuff just doesn't leave you, does it? Huh?
It's difficult. You try and tamp it down, but it kind of percolates up from time to time.
So, I mean, that's a person that ideally started 12 or 18 months out.
Sure.
So let's say one of our viewers is saying, it's too late now. I got out a month ago, and I've hit headwinds, and I don't know what to do.
Sure.
What's your advice to them to start doing or stop doing? They're out already. They've lost the support of the military.
You need to gather momentum. That would be my advice. And there's no shortage of individuals in San Diego that are willing to help connect you as a veteran. Now, granted, understand that there's also kind of a shelf life or an expiration date where, if you've been a veteran who's been sitting on the shelf for a long time, you can't really play that card. It starts to lose quite a bit of impact and emphasis. But that's not to say it can't be done.
How long do you have to play the veteran card?
I would say realistically, you need to probably land something within 12 to 18 months. But don't despair, there are opportunities out there. I mean, you and I had the conversation where we talked about unemployment's at 2.9%, so it's favorable for people who are out there looking for work. One of the things that I think is interesting, though, is veteran unemployment in San Diego is quite a bit higher. I just read an article that the Chamber did where it's about 5.6%. So it's a little bit more alarming, but still easy to be overcome as long as you keep a positive mindset, connect early, connect often, and kind of make these meaningful collisions with people in the community. Because again, the military has a tough time connecting veterans to the community in which they reside.
Yeah, and a friend of mine that's an admiral said, our job is to fight wars and be prepared to fight wars. We're not an outplacement agency,
Sure.
right? So I can't take funds and open an outplacement department
Sure.
that's budgeted for something else. So they really look for the private sector to promote that. And one of the things we look at from the private sector also is if you've been out of work for 18 months, why has somebody else not hired you? What do they know that I don't know? So while it's great to take a few months off, or 6 months, be able to explain to me why you did that and how that was used as productive time. You know, I was on foreign assignments for 50%. I wanted to spend 6 months with my kids and just focus on them and my wife, and that makes perfect sense. But you say, well, I just wanted to goof off and go to the beach and drink beer or something. It's like, oh, really? Okay. So be able to quantify and tell us what that is, because we're going to get suspicious if you've had too far away from the veteran thing. And it's a little concerning if you've been out 20 or 30 years to play the veteran card. It's sort of like, you know, we sort of look at post 9/11 as that piece.
Sure.
So be careful. We were buying a car once, and the fellow said, "Hi, my name's Joe Smith. I'm a proud veteran of the Navy," and then probably in the next 10 minutes mentioned he was a veteran 5 more times. And this guy was probably in his 60s, right? And my wife and I were like, enough. I was impressed the first time, but not the 8th time. Like you just pounded it in and it's done. So be careful how you use that card, and use it when it's important.
Sure. You know, I think there can be, you know, a positive association with veterans, and, you know, there's always, you know, at the airport you get the thank you for your service.
Yeah.
And, you know, you
and
just
deserve it. You deserve that.
Well, and just be humble and say, you know, you're welcome. Thank you for allowing me to serve, and move on with your day. I'm not the type of person who needs to thump, you know, the drum that I was a veteran, because it's what I did, and it is kind of at the core of who I am. But I like to think that I'm a lot more than that. You know, I'm a husband, father, son. You know, all these other things. And at the end of the day, we're all kind of just a collection of human beings. And we all kind of want to make the most of the time that we have while we're here. So,
we're going to talk a little bit about how you sell yourself as a veteran. And I've got to tell you, my experience of interviewing hundreds of veterans, there's 3 things they talk about: teamwork, leadership, and logistics.
Sure.
I thought the military was a whole lot more than moving logistics around, but everybody mentions logistics. And from a private sector point of view, in the private sector, we want people with leadership and teamwork. That's not an anomaly, like you're the only people that have that. But they seem to focus on that. And what do we say to veterans who that's their knee-jerk reaction? These are the skills I bring to the private sector. And how do you suggest they explain that?
I know that people in the business community have those same leadership experiences, and it's kind of actually difficult for a veteran to say, hey, I've been in charge of teams of, you know, 50 to 200 people. You know, because guess what? People in the, you know, regular, ordinary citizens in the civilian community have been doing that as well. So, you know, you can't just, you know, hook your anchor to that as, you know, that's the one thing that I'm best at. So if you can drill down to the one thing that I'm best at, and you can use that as your anchor and get away from kind of speaking in generalities in terms of what you did and you know, the things that you're good at when you talk teamwork, you know, leadership and logistics. I like to think it more in terms of, you know, you've got genuine altruism, meaning that you actually care about the work that you do and you care about the community in which you live, and then just being conscientious. I think that's another good selling point, because it's something that translates really well. I'm well organized. I come to work and I'm going to be effective and I'm going to be efficient, and I'm going to look for different ways that I can seize the initiative. You know, these are all messages that you can actually sell, because, you know, any business is looking to either make money or save money. You and I have had that conversation. So, you know, if you can temper your conversation to how can I save this company money or how can I make this company money, you're going to be much more effective. And those, you know, kind of social skills that you talked about, which there are a lot more that veterans possess, those will kind of float to the surface over time. But you don't want to be too overly aggressive and lead in, and then it comes across as either cocky or intimidating. You want to be kind of the sweet spot. You want to be interesting, you know, and people and have
as
kind
a person,
have
not
a
as a
likability.
commander in the Navy.
Yeah, have a likability kind of component to you. Yeah, you don't want to be like the guy who's in charge, and you don't want to live up to the stereotypes, because every person thinks military and they immediately see a uniform and somebody, you know, traipsing around the desert or the jungle with a gun. Well, there's an entire support staff that is associated to helping those people, you know, win that fight. So, you know, there's a lot more to military veterans than just, again, the stereotype. And we all don't have PTSD, and we're all not going to come in and try and shake up the world, or come in with this very directive style of leadership. One of the things that you learn over the course of practicing this leadership skill for 20 plus years, or even 4 years, is that you learn a time when authoritative leadership works best, and it's usually when kind of time is of the essence, or we've got constrained resources and a decision has to be made. And then there's kind of a time when there's more democratic process. So veterans can do either one.
Yeah, because in the private sector, we have this sort of image of it's easy to lead when you can command somebody and they have to say yes or no, sir, and go do it, right? Versus, I've got a department of 250 people. They range in age from 18 to 68. They're half female, half English as second language to many of them. I've got a very diverse picture of Americana out there. And I don't just walk in and say, you'll be on time tomorrow morning, everybody's answer with yes, sir, right? That's easy to lead. How do you answer the question about when you go beyond the yes, sir, no, sir leadership skills?
I think it's important to kind of soften your image, but as a veteran, you don't want to go too soft, because then you don't have the ability to kind of firm that up when you need to. We need to continue to still be able to practice having the tough conversations, but without kind of defaulting to this short-term results of you'll do it when I say, because I said so, and applying a little bit more finesse, to it.
Was it awkward getting out of the uniform that you'd worn for 20 years?
There is a little bit of a grieving process, to be honest with you. Like,
for your whites?
yeah, it's interesting because, even though you know that this day is coming, and it's something that's set in stone. For me, April 23rd, 2015 was.
Other than that, you don't remember when it was, right?
No. Yeah.
What time of the day?
It was 10 o'clock.
Okay.
But there is a little bit of a grieving process that takes place, because the second you walk out the gate or roll out the gate, the phone doesn't ring anymore. There's nobody emailing you. You're not solving anybody's problems. And the organization has started to kind of move on. But meanwhile, you're like, there's still kind of this need to be needed. So you got to find a way to exert that energy in a positive way. And maybe it's, going to the gym more, or, playing racquetball or whatever, going back to something that maybe you used to do that maybe you haven't had time to do. In San Diego, maybe you want to surf more. So, channel that energy and that angst and kind of that anxiety about the unknown, navigating the unknown, and do it in a positive way.
So the worst fear is someone gets out of the military, they go home and sort of begin what I'll call a pity party. Nobody's calling me. They told me I was in demand. Everybody loves veterans. Well, I'm here at home on the couch and nobody's calling me. Nobody's sending me job descriptions. Nobody wants to work with me. And I call it a pity party. So how do we get beyond that? How do we motivate ourselves? Because there's lots of people doing that right now. What words of wisdom do we get them up and energized and excited about what they want to do?
Well, first of all, it's San Diego. Here in San Diego, it's San Diego, so you got to be excited about just being here in this location. There's a lot of veterans who
welcome to our world,
who
right?
would love to live here, and just look for the positive in everything. It's very, very easy to get inside your own head because you're navigating this transition, but you're not alone. You're not the first person to transition from service, nor will you be the last person to transition from service. There's somebody else who transitioned a week after I did. And they navigate the space as well. So I think connecting with other veterans, and the Veterans Beer Club is a good resource as well. Now, don't let the name fool you. It's meant to be a relaxed environment for people to network and also explore San Diego's great craft brewery industry at the same time.
In that order, right?
Yes.
Networking is most important. And by the way, it's at a new craft beer
Absolutely.
joint. And there's last one there were 200 people. It's a great resource.
Easily 200 people. And they come across a wide variety of industries. They have a forward kind of thinking mentality, but there's also a little bit of reverence. So if you're looking to have kind of the gun club kind of mentality, you still get that, but you also will leave there with information, or you'll meet people which I think is important as you're trying to get this momentum and gather this momentum.
Yeah, and we've seen that especially veterans. I mean, in this beer drinking group, veterans beer drinking, half or more of the people are working, and they're
Yes.
looking for leads for their peers that have just come in and are looking to network to find openings. So that's what I
Yes.
thought was so supportive.
Yes.
And then a little kick in the butts too,
Yeah.
about enough with the pity party. Get out there and interview.
Exactly.
Right? I mean,
well, and that would be another piece of advice as I would give anybody who's maybe trying to transition from the couch is you got to get out. You got to get out and meet people. You got to meet people. The power of people is so important when you're trying to land that next opportunity. So the Veterans Beer Club is a good way. It's a nice icebreaker. It's a good way for you to practice. It's a safe space. It's informal. You're going to leave there with either some advice, and it's going to be pretty circumspect advice at that. You're going to leave with a couple of connections. So always remember to bring your business cards. And then you're going to get some advice about maybe what's the next step. So if I want a career in HR, maybe I need to explore, San Diego SHRM. Maybe if I want a career as a project manager, I need to explore getting my PMP. Like these are all things that people that have kind of walked the path will be able to kind of help pull another veteran along. And that's kind of the other piece of advice is, for veterans that are successful in navigating the space, be able to tell your story, be willing to tell your story early and often, and then don't pull the ladder up behind you. It's so important because there are so many veterans, especially here in San Diego, that need a little bit of assistance, and that small little leg up will make all the difference.
Yeah. In our business, we talk about the 30-second elevator speech. I find one of the frustrations of people transitioning from the military is, I don't know what I want to do. I've been this in the military, commander of a submarine,
Yeah.
and there aren't private sector jobs that do that.
Sure.
So how would you suggest well before they get out of the military, that they have a focus of the 2 or 3 career paths they're interested in? Because I find the people that end up on the couch watching TV still have no idea what they want to do. The
Sure.
ones that are saying, I've got 3 career paths and I'm doing informational interviews and I'm going to association meetings, and I may change my mind 5 times, but I've got a focus of what I think I want to do and where my skills are. How do we get them to develop those career paths so that they can put that 30-second elevator speech?
Okay. So I think developing your emotional intelligence, there are a number of resources out there. The Myers-Briggs, I took the Myers-Briggs so that I could understand myself a little bit better. My personality profile, as you're aware, is I'm an ENTJ. I'm outgoing, I'm energetic, I'm intuitive thinking, judging, I'm all those things.
That's why I like the guy, huh?
Yeah. They call it the profile that is called the commander. Like I'm the person that likes to be in charge, not because I am in charge, but because of the results that we're able to accomplish as a team. Other people are INTJs, and
Strength Finders is another test they
Yes.
should get a hold of.
Yeah, that absolutely is.
For career choices.
So I can dazzle you with my 5. So strategic, futuristic, woo, communication, and arranger. Those are my 5 strengths.
If we had time, we'd ask what your woo was, but let's keep going.
Well, woo isn't the cheerleading; it's the salesmanship aspect. It sounds funny every time I tell it, and I actually have to explain, like, not woo like a good time guy, but woo as
You think
in,
they'd change that,
I have
wouldn't
an
you, after all
element
these
of
years?
I am able to get people to change their mind, and it's something that you don't even realize. Those are your strengths, and then when once you see them on paper, you start to realize, like, oh, like this is something that.
And I should be proud of this.
Yeah, this is, well, you should definitely own it, first of all, but then also use it to your advantage because, everybody wants a role that they're going to play to their strengths, and then they can work on their weaknesses. So, for an ENTJ like myself, it's probably going to be like a career in sales. But I said to myself, I'm not really comfortable doing sales because I didn't like the fluctuation and kind of the month-to-month living where it's like every month or every quarter you're going to get your target's going to get reset, and we're going to continue to move the marker. So maybe something for me, inside sales was something that I explored. Again, like I wanted to do something within finance. And I actually had a sustainability kind of bent to my MBA, so that was something that I was really interested in. Saving a company money, with the triple bottom line savings that they talk about.
And then you had this HR path and training path also, right?
Sure,
That was
sure.
of interest.
I mean, I spent about half my time kind of in a training and development role, and I didn't realize at the time that you're going through it that you're at, I was always at my best when I was helping others achieve their best. So, it's kind of that selfless giving and training aspect that I really enjoyed. One of the things that I know that you're still flabbergasted by is like when I tell you that I was a drill instructor. I wore the funny hat and I did all the running around and had the scratchy voice and
Screamed and yelled at poor little 17 and 18-year-old guys.
Sure.
Still think you made them cry, but
I'm
that's
not
okay.
that intimidating once you get to know me as a person. It was just a job. It was what I did at the time, and it doesn't define who I am. But it's, for me, that was when I was absolutely at my best. Was when helping others achieve their goals, and so maybe that is how my ENTJ got shaped along the way. But I had a lot of people who helped mentor me. And they still mentor me to this day. So I'm certainly appreciative of that, and I'm more than willing to reach out to any veteran who maybe is struggling through transition and help steer them along the way so that they can have success far beyond what they ever imagined. Because the last thing I want to do is see a veteran who's unemployed, underemployed, or underutilized, meaning the guy who's kind of sitting woe is me on the couch. And then that's the only way that number of unemployed veterans is going to continue to come down.
And you're absolutely right. I found veterans the most willing to meet with anybody that's transitioning to try to help them. Sort of like, I made it through, now I'm going to help you make it through.
Sure.
Sometimes we meet people say, hey, I got this job, you're on your own, right? Stay away from me. But veterans are really supportive. So while you're still in the military, 12 to 18 months, start thinking about what you want to do. Start thinking about career paths. Start thinking about, go to associations, go to meetings, meet with people that are in that field. And either say, oh, I love HR, or oh my God, run away screaming, thank heavens I didn't spend any time with that. It's called an informational interview. Talk to people that are successful, that love what they do. Why is it what are you doing? Is that something I might want to do? And you just take pieces of that, which is really important. But I think your message, Shane, is don't lay back and think, I'm the best thing since gravy. Everybody's going to fight for me. I'm going to fight off the job offers. I don't care if I'm an admiral or a lowest level, corporal. I'm a veteran, and people are going to flock to me because I have leadership skills and teamwork, and I'm a vet. That doesn't happen, and it's a huge letdown. It's like somebody's built you up here, and the reality is down here. And we got to own it. The veteran has to own their transition. They've got to make it happen. They've got to put themselves in uncomfortable situations like you've done. And network, we talked about veterans are very open. I don't know anybody in the HR field. Network till you find somebody that's in HR, that's a fellow veteran, and call them. And you'll rarely get a no.
One of the best successes that I had, and this is kind of my token, whether it was an email or a conversation I would have, I'd be like, hi, my name is Shane Smith. I'm conducting my own personal career exploration because I'm a veteran who's about 12 to 18 months out, or insert the appropriate amount of time. Is there any way that I could take a few minutes of your time so that I could talk to you about possibly finding a role within X, finance, sustainability, operations, human resources, doesn't matter, cybersecurity, you name it, because veterans all have those experiences as well. So, and some of them translate well. Some of them are a little bit harder to articulate.
A little more of a stretch,
right.
But can be done.
Yeah, it can be done. And that's where the transition folks do a really good job of helping kind of solidify your resume. But you need to be able to jump off the page as a live human being when you get the opportunity. That is way more important than having put your resume out there on LinkedIn, put your resume out on every site known to man, and then kind of get no results.
Yeah.
But so you've just got to enjoy the ride. It is going to be an emotional roller coaster of ups and downs. You're going to find a company, you're going to think that it's this close, and then the carpet will just get pulled out from under you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Just you need to continue to practice telling your professional story.
But
so
I do
that you're
think
ready.
veterans are a little more fragile with that. with that pull out from under.
Yeah, there's a little ego that's involved there. It's tough to kind of put your ego on hold. And I mean, it's something that I personally even struggle with. Is like, you've done so good for so long with so many, different experiences. It sometimes is difficult, to continue to be told no. So you just kind of have to be resilient. Most veterans have been through challenges before and overcome challenges, whether it was boot camp or officer training, and then challenges in combat, and also here, in stateside or in garrison, as we call it. So that resiliency doesn't go away. You just still need to hang on to that and utilize it, and understand that, your search or your next career it's only a temporary thing.
Yeah, that first job out of the military also isn't the one you're going to do for the rest of your life.
No.
So just know that the average permanent job in America is slightly over 4 years. And if you're in your 20s or early 30s, it's more like 2 years. So, Shane, thank you.
Thank you.
I think
I appreciate that.
Great advice. And as the theme of Job One is, we all have a career coach, and it needs to be us. And it's no different when you're a veteran. You need to own your job search, and need to know where the hurdles are. You need to know when to use the veteran trump card when it's appropriate, but not overuse it. But there is lots of opportunity out there, and just own your transition, get out of your comfort zone, and know that the right job in the private sector is out there for you when you're ready for it. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next segment.